I wanted to begin by asking you not about the assassinations of Amaya and the bad guy in Beirut or of Kamala Harris, but about Harry Potter. And the reason I want to explain to the audience is that Mary Katherine is that rarest of persons. She had never read a Harry Potter book until this year. She has not watched the movies until the books were done, and she's been reading them with her girls. Now, my children grew up with Harry Potter, and I loved it that they were reading that. How do you judge her genius? Because I think she's actually a genius. Rowling.
I did not expect it to live up to the hype. And then I started reading and I was like, oh, this is why everyone loves these books. I mean, the world building is incredible. There are so many characters you care about and you know exactly what their motivations are. Everything makes sense. The writing is beautiful. It's very fun to read out loud to the girls. So we've had a blast with it. And we started, it's actually a couple years ago. It's been a project of reading aloud all 7 books as the girls got older and mature enough for each plot line, because they do get darker as you go.
They get darker and they get more complicated. What I've tried to explain to people who are Harry Potter doubters is it's truly a work of art, because every book begins with a 6th grader, a 6-year-old, then it becomes a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old. It gets darker, more complicated, and she saw it all at the beginning. I just can't imagine having the patience to see it all and take that long to write it all.
Well, and I think that's what's gratifying about it is there are some things, often TV shows, in fact, like something like Lost or J.J. Abrams, who, when they start, you think, oh, this is going somewhere really, really interesting. This person has a plan. And you find out later in the series, that person did not have a plan. She had a plan the whole time. And it's gratifying to feel that as you're reading it.
And now I also want to ask you, have you done that with your girls on the Little House on the Prairie books? I taught my daughter, a colleague, a friend of yours, about how to read doing the Little House on the Prairie books, which are actually realistic and they're scary. Have you ever done those?
Yes, we have done Little House on the Prairie. My favorite is the scariest one, which is The Long Winter. And just a little note of inspiration, that Laura Ingalls Wilder did not start writing those until her 50s. And she wrote one of the most important novel series for children in the history of America.
And why is, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Why do you think it's important for kids to read that?
I think it has a lot of things that we don't deal with well anymore, like the idea of hardship and the idea of overcoming hardship. I like to see modeled for my kids how much hard work kids did in these environments. They were asked by their families to be part of a family unit and to do sometimes dangerous things and very hard things to make that family unit work. And that to me is fascinating and sort of helps me to, in our own family, say, look, we're all a team here and we're working together. And sometimes, yes, you're going to have to empty the dishwasher. Resilience.
There are 3 things that stick out. The panther in the woods scared me. The blizzard scared me. But also the best thing I remember, my daughter, I read to her that for Christmas, Laura got a corncob doll. And she said, that's it?
Yep.
Yep, that's it.
It's a lesson in perspective and the immense prosperity that we enjoy, even when things are not going great in this country. The just physical comforts that we enjoy are so much different than what people had to battle with in the past.
Every time I drive around and I look at the infrastructure that America has, I say, boy, am I blessed to live at this time and in this place, even though things are going crazy. Now, I'm going to transition to Kamala Harris, and we're going to do this during the break. But to tease people to go get the podcast, Mary Katherine Ham, do you think Donald Trump will beat her?
I think he can. I think it's harder than beating Biden by maybe a large amount if she doesn't have to sit down with anybody asking any tough questions, which so far she has not even come close to.
Did you listen to the rally last night?
I listened to some of it. She does seem like she's enjoying herself, which is a vibe that is better than her vibe in the past. But again, she will enjoy herself until she has to answer any challenging questions. And I would just urge anyone in media to get an interview with this woman or ask for a press conference and maybe challenge her on her views instead of having her release statements from staffers that say she doesn't believe anything she used to believe.
I want to play for you what she said on the tarmac yesterday, and we'll talk about it after the break. On the Atlanta tarmac, after Israel took out not one, they won a doubleheader yesterday. They killed a bad guy in Beirut and an even worse guy in Iran. Here's Kamala, cut number 30.
I want to address what's happened over the last few hours in terms of the Middle East and be very clear. Israel has a right to defend itself, and I unequivocally support Israel's right to remain secure and to defend the security of Israel. What we know in particular is it has a right to defend itself against a terrorist organization, which is exactly what Hezbollah is. But all of that being said, we still must work on a diplomatic solution to end these attacks, and we will continue to do that work.
But, Mary Katherine, we still must work on a diplomatic solution. What's the tease going into the break?
I don't think she knows very much about this issue. I don't think she is conversant in it, and this is just sort of regular leftist word salad about couching what Israel must do.
Mary Katherine, I want to play for you. Donald Trump dropped his first official campaign ad yesterday. Want to get your reaction to it. If we can play that, Harley, cut number 30.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
This is America's border czar, and she's failed us. Under Harris, over 10 million illegally here. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. Brutal migrant crimes. And ISIS now here.
Do you have any plans to visit the border? You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
Kamala Harris failed. Weak, dangerously liberal.
Kamala Harris, failed, weak, dangerously liberal. How's it work with you, Mary Katherine?
It's not a bad bumper sticker thought. I think that kind of covers it. One of the things that I think is important is to tie her to the administration, because she and the press are going to pretend that even though she was the vice president of this administration, that this is a fresh face and a chance for change. It is not. She's going to double down on the failures of this administration, on spending, on the border, on crime. It will look the same but worse. And that ad, I think, communicates that. She's also doing something extremely brazen. I said last night, this is not a talking point. This is a humiliation ritual for the press. She's saying that she's tough on the border. And I'm interested to see how many people decide to cover for her on that, because that's out there.
Watch PolitiFact. Okay, Mary Katherine, here's where I want to wrap up. I've been voting in presidential elections since 1976. I have a generation on you. There has never been a starker choice than Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Most people like to say this is the most important election of your lifetime. It always is, and I don't dispute that. But this is clearly, since McGovern-Nixon, the starkest choice. Do you think that will drive the essential dynamic of the election, or do the American people not have a way of learning just how vast that gulf is between Trump and Harris?
Well, that's what I'm worried about, and that's why I'm glad they're on the air, and I hope they're on the air early with so much money, and don't worry about where the money is coming from later, because she needs to be defined now, because I don't think a lot of people know exactly how radical she is, although it's helping that they're just embracing this court reform, court packing nonsense, which is maybe my tipping point on this, looking around and saying, this is what you guys think you should be doing in this moment. And I know that they'll do it even if they don't think they have the power to do it, because that's what they do repeatedly on things that liberals want when they acknowledge they don't have the power to do them and they can't pass the Congress. So making that clear to the American people and making that clear that she is very out of step with them is important, and we have to spend a lot of money on it.
She's a San Francisco Democrat, and I spent 30 years in California raising my family, so I know what it is to be a San Francisco Democrat. Does the rest of the country, does a Georgia girl like you or a North Carolina girl like you know what it is to be a San Francisco Democrat?
I do, and I know based on policy, right? But I think other people know based on feel, and they know based on sort of the vibe they get from her and what they've experienced with Nancy Pelosi and elite liberals in the past who give them the brush off, who treat them as if they do not matter. And generally, she puts off that same feeling. So no matter how much she tries to run away from who she was in the past, I think it's going to be with her.
When was the last time you were in the city by the bay, Mary Katherine? When did you physically visit San Francisco last?
Probably 2017 or 18. So it's
All
been a
right,
while.
We've been there more recently, but we've stopped going there after that last visit. It is a complete city in collapse, as is Oakland, as is the Bay Area. She was a disaster as the Attorney General of California, as a prosecutor in San Francisco. Does any of that matter in today's environment where the legacy media is putting up a united front to boost Kamala?
It should matter, but I'm afraid it doesn't matter as much as it should because of that huge effort, which is why we have to spend money on countering that huge effort. But I do get confused about in major cities, in blue states, when you look around you and you see that things are failing, when you see what people did to you during COVID with these regulations, that people don't get more angry about it and reject this leadership. They should reject this leadership. But I'm often not the median voter on that kind of thing, and I care more about those violations. I care more that this woman is making it the freedom campaign when she was the type of person who told you not to go to church or restaurant or your school for a year. But she's for freedom.
Well, Mary Katherine, I'm glad to hear that you're starting out from where you are, because you're going to be one of the key. You're the key demo in this election. You are. You're the key demo. So talk often and frequently. Mary Katherine Ham, on Getting Hammered, I'll be listening to you and Vic Mattis. Does a new episode drop today?
Yes. No. Yes, it does.
Yes, maybe so. Okay. Well, we'll be listening for Getting Hammered today. Thank you, MKH.